Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom. Today's special guest is Susan Brennan. She is a friend of mine that I met last year. She is a rock goddess as well. So welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you, Wendy.
And you are currently the CEO of 5E Advanced Materials. But before we go into a story about rocks and minerals, you have a very long history in the automotive industry. So could you kind of go into that background a little bit?
Yes, so thank you, and thank you for the invitation for today. So I've had an interesting career. My undergraduate degree is actually in microbiology, and I did 5 years of research out of college and had the opportunity to enter the automotive industry in the late 80s, early 90s, and exciting time, a lot of transition. So spent 25 years, worked in automotive components, building seat adjusters, engines, engine parts, all kinds of different parts. Went to Ford in the mid 90s, and that was a really exciting time. It's hard to believe today, but the debate about technology and which technology was going to lead, and was there going to be a technology transition? So I was a big part of that, and at Ford I ran large automotive assembly plants, so that was very exciting. Built millions and millions of cars, responsible for the introduction of new cars, and then had a strategy role at the end of my time at Ford. And again, it was about the, there's enormous amounts of capital in the automotive world, which I think everybody is aware of, but sometimes I think that sometimes the magnitude of the billions of dollars that goes into both building new factories and new products and implementing new technology is something that not everyone's aware of. And I got to be a part of that strategic discussion. And at the time, Ford had made some decisions, and one of the decisions they had made, which, common knowledge today, is to really kind of at that time, and we're talking about 2005, 2006, which doesn't seem that long ago, but also seems ages ago. Really to focus on the EcoBoost and kind of making the internal combustion engine more efficient. And nothing wrong with that. That's still many internal combustion engine internal combustion engines on the road today.
Oh, absolutely.
What was that? 18 years ago. But I had the opportunity while I was there to go to Nissan, and what seems maybe kind of people may not realize today is back then 2005, 6, 7, 8 the Nissan had decided that it was going to focus on bringing an affordable, and I think that's a really important word, affordable car market, and hence the Nissan Leaf. So today the Nissan Leaf might not be as unique as it was back in 2008, 9, and 10, but I ran the factory in Smyrna, Tennessee that brought the Nissan Leaf to market, and I got to drive the first production Leaf off the production line. And I really thought that was, to me, that was the capstone of my career and everything that I had done along the way. I've always been one of those people that has been very focused on both keeping manufacturing in the United States, implementing technology, and doing it in a way that's sustainable. So I was very, very excited that, at the kind of capstone of my automotive career, bringing the Nissan Leaf to market and doing that production launch and turning that into a reality. So that was really, really exciting. And then I moved on to other endeavors after that.
I just think it's amazing because I grew up outside of Detroit, so we did have that Michigan connection. Yeah. And I do remember as a kid, this would have been mid 80s, one of my friend's dads, I forget which motor company, probably Ford, everyone worked for Ford. And he had an electric car that he got to drive around the neighborhood for a little while. And they didn't move forward with it, I believe, because it was so expensive. So when you talk about affordability, that is really important. Because these cars, they have to be affordable. Everybody has to be able to buy them, or else it's not going to work. So that is a problem that many people have faced. But now you're working in the cool world of rocks and minerals.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So I
So
feel, yeah. Oh, go ahead. I was just
I was
saying.
just going to say, could you explain what 5E does? And most importantly, our favorite mineral that nobody knows about, boron.
Right. So at 5E, our goal is to enable global decarbonization with boron plus its derivatives plus lithium. So we are an advanced material company, and we are, as of January 1, we have started bringing the boron and lithium to the surface, and we're beginning to process it in the United States. And what is unique about what we do, as you said, boron is the element that most people have never heard of but use almost every day. Yes, there you go. There you go.
I
And
am a rock nerd. I have a piece. It's called Ulexite or TV rock. I have a piece. I dug it out. So this was kind of funny, guys. I've had this for 30 years.
yes, I think that's so amazing. It's just, it's a chemical that's really important to enable decarbonization in all kinds of areas, and electric vehicles and wind turbines and glass, the permanent magnets that go into motors. And one of the challenges, and one of the things that I'm really proud of, and one of the reasons that I took this role after spending many years in automotive and then another 10 in energy, is the boron is unique in that it's found in very few parts of the world. And what happens today is the boron that not let me qualify that the majority of the boron that is mined today in the United States is sent to China for processing. So one of the challenges that 5E is taking on is we want to both bring the boron and the lithium comes with it to the surface and process it in the United States. So our goal is to keep the product here in the U.S., do the chemical processing here in the U.S. And for such a critical mineral, it's also important not just in decarbonization, but also in defense, to really be keep the U.S., keep NAFTA self-sufficient, and process boron here.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, when we talk about sustainability and the full circle of the social justice, environmental justice, and environmental, less of a footprint of when you're transporting things across continents. So keeping it in the US where it's mined and where it's processed, so that's less of a carbon footprint.
Yes.
And then just also the working conditions that we have here by law are very valuable, because in other countries, they're not going to treat people as well. They're not going to have the same safe working conditions that we have here and the same environmental laws that we have here. So it's important that this type of mining activity stays local, because we will follow those rules and those laws.
And one thing I need to qualify is I use NAFTA. I'm dating myself. It's USMCA now. But yes, I agree with the tenant that doing the work here is really not just it's not just critical for the things that you talked about, but we are bringing very valuable jobs to an area where unemployment is very high. Other industries have moved out. And so something I'm really proud of, and I think you and I talked about this earlier, you being from Detroit. I'm from Southern Illinois, from a steel town, and have watched what happens to a community when jobs are lost. And I'm really proud that 5E is bringing jobs to the economy and bringing good, these are technical jobs. People have to understand, to your point, they've got to understand geology. They have to understand chemistry. And we are, we do follow the rules and regulations that we are governed by.
I just love the fact that you guys are all into the geology and geochem, because that's just what I love in life. But also, people don't understand how much boron is used. So I'm going to pick up my little rock again. Yes. So when I got this as a geologist, I thought it was neat. It's called TV rock because it has these little fibers on the side that people can see. And it's these little fibers that will bring an image from the back to the front. So this I just happen to have on hand. I did an interview with a company called Bothberger recently.
Yeah.
And if you look at the imagery,
you can see through it. Yeah.
You see through it. It sees through it, but it actually brings the image forward. You can't see it very well on camera right here, but it brings that image forward, which is why it's called TV rock. So it's not just seeing through it, it actually takes the image and brings it to the front of the mineral. And that's why I thought it was neat. That's why I bought this. I'm like, oh, cool, fun, play. Kind of like calcite, breaks the image up and you see double images. So this is actually a mineral that I bought as a toy and my 20-something self. But this is used in, as you said, glass, ceramics, in engine parts. I mean, fertilizer. Who knew?
Right.
This has multiple uses, and I was reading the qualities of it. It's a very strong material as well.
Correct.
And very lightweight. So it's kind of, it hits all of the perfect points of what we need in materials.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about boron, to your point, is it's a very, very strong and very, I'd say, versatile chemical that, as we talked about, that most people have some interaction with. And when I interviewed initially with the job, my memory was that it was used in laundry soap and yeah. So I'm like, and so then I'm like, okay, so I'm interviewing for this job, and the product is used, and in these things, something's obviously changed, and it really has. When I was growing up, which I won't date myself, but it was a long time ago. The permanent magnets and electric vehicles, wind turbines, the blades, solar panels. Fertilizers were around, the specialty glasses, but I'm sure these things were around, but in a very small, and more experimental way. And then just how much the demand has grown, since most people have heard of boron, and the what I love about this is my whole career I've been really interested in technology, and I have the Wayne Gretzky quote on my signature block. I like to be where the puck is going. So I think we're ahead, and I think this is where the puck is going in electrification and decarbonization, and it's a really important mineral, and it's something that we do have in the United States that we can bring forward to the market.
And that's an important point that you brought up with using boron in decarbonization, because I don't think everybody realizes the role it plays. So as simply as possible, without using too much jargon or language, how is boron used in the decarbonization or pulling excess carbon out of our system?
Well, that is a great question. I would say the best way to frame it is to say, if electric vehicles are going to take carbon out of the environment, boron is one of the enablers to electric vehicles being on the road. If wind turbines are bringing carbon out of the environment, boron is one of the enablers, particularly in the wind turbine blades, bringing. So it's kind of like one of the, I don't want to get in trouble using somebody else, but hopefully it's like kind of the Intel inside. Hopefully referencing Intel is not a problem, but that and there's different one of the reasons we're excited about the advanced material part of what we do is, once we're able to get boric acid, then it's really all of the derivatives of boron that really enable decarbonization and enable these technologies.
And technologies that we will keep needing more and more and more of. I mean, our appetite is not waning at all. We are actually in need of more tech, more stuff. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. And when you talked about having it here, providing it here, I think we saw firsthand during COVID, when a lot of manufacturing shut down and when a lot of our transportation of goods shut down and our ports got backed up, all of a sudden we couldn't get these things because we were solely dependent on shipping it from outside in. What you're doing at 5E is you're keeping it here. Everything is here. So we will not run into that problem of supply chain issues in the future.
So yes, that's the expectation. So what we're doing today is we've got a very small scale facility that we're starting with our first production runs, and then our goal is to build in a phased way the actual chemical processing plants here in the near future to be able to your points, if something should happen, that there would be a processing plant large enough to facilitate the production of boric acid in the United States. So, the other thing that I think is really, and I guess this is just my experience over, I hate to say how long I've been in the workplace, but like it's either 38 or 43, but many years, this has been my experience, is that a technology generally does not get adopted in mass until it's economically feasible. So we are working on that challenge to bring this product to the market with economic feasibility. And it's a really exciting challenge. And the more adoption, it's a chicken and an egg, right? The more adoption of technologies like wind turbines and electric vehicles, the more demand there is, and then it drives the supply, and then that it becomes more cost effective. And it's just it's that virtuous cycle that I think is really exciting. And because I think many people don't remember, or maybe are too young to remember, and I may get the day wrong, but I think my memory is back in 2002, Ford came out, with the hybrid Escape. And before that, there were the EV1 with General Motors. And, so we're talking about late 90s, early 2000s. So here we are, call it 20, 25 years later. And the magnitude of the adoption, in my opinion, again, is so significant that the opportunity, I feel like we're at the right place at the right time. The opportunity for a product like boron and boric acid and the derivatives of boron have really met where the market is going, and that flywheel just will start to really accelerate. So I've seen it, the early beginning, when it was going very, very slow, and there were fits and starts, and I really feel like it's moving forward. I know there's newspaper articles or about the EV demand is slowing down, and at least what I see, the automotive industry has always been a cyclical industry. So if you're just looking at EVs, and again, this is me with my economics degree and probably an experience and not much else, there may absolutely be slowdowns. They make sense. But I believe that the adoption and the curve and the change, it's in progress. And so I'm looking forward to being able to help enable the speed of the transition as it's speeding up.
Absolutely. I mean, it is cyclical. The automotive industry always has been, but also with the adoption of electric vehicles, the adoption of lithium-ion batteries, things like that, we are finding new ways to do things better. Some things are working great, some things weren't working so great, and then you adapt and you learn and you build from that. That's what we're going through right now. We're going through our learning phases, and we're building it better every year. That's that flywheel that you mentioned, where things are beginning to speed up because we're getting better.
Yeah. So our goal is to have our phase 1 facility built and ready to go by the time in the next couple of years, as the demand really starts to accelerate, as prices of many things go down. And I think you bring an excellent point. When I listen to the media, podcasts, news, online newspapers, all the different forms of media that there are today.
Yeah.
My philosophy, or the way I think about what I hear is these are like single point in time data points. Yeah. But they don't really look at the system in general. I've always considered myself a system thinker, and I think your point is sometimes you are going to take a breath, take a pause, take a beat. However I'm going to say it, because there are better, cheaper, faster technologies that have been developed, and rather than continuing down the road with the technology that a company or a product may have started with, they may find something along the way, step back, iterate that, and keep moving. But I've always been in the hardware world, I guess, as
well, that's science and engineering in a nutshell. You try something out, you figure out what doesn't work, what does work, you move forward, and it's just constant progression of moving forward. Doing the same thing over and over again that doesn't work is dumb.
I think there's an axiom about that, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I think it's they always said Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It turns out he actually never said that, because I researched it, I looked it up, and he said maybe something similar, but he didn't. Anyway.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do want to talk about before I let you go,
Yes.
the light environmental touch, because I know that's very important to you and to 5E, because mining people will have this image in their head that's not necessarily accurate. And I know that you guys kind of pride yourself on being careful about that and being environmentally aware.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Because I've spent many years in factories, like, large boxes with robots and people and assembly lines and all those kind of things. And just like anyone else, everyone has their biases. And so when this job opportunity came up, I thought, well, that's interesting. And then it was interesting. And so when I interviewed, one of the requirements for anyone who interviewed was coming to the site. So I drove out to the site and I couldn't find the site. I'm like, where's the site? It is, and there are other sites that it was very obvious to me that these were mining. There were large, heavy vehicles and tailing piles. I'm sure as a geologist, you know the right term. I don't know the right term, but
yeah, you're good. You're good. Tailings.
Okay. Yeah. And I grew up in Southern Illinois in the strip mining days back in the 60s.
So that's the image people have in their minds. And that's
exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I drove up to the site that I realized it was actually the site. So we use a process called in situ mining. So it's a less invasive process. And it really, I think it was what sold me on the job. So I was already excited about the technology. I'd been in electric vehicles and worked with energy and decarbonization. So it had all those things. I talked about, I like it. We're a very small company. We're very, very, very early on. So creating jobs. But then I saw what the manifestation was in the way that, compared to the other environment around it. I thought, wow, this is really, this is something I definitely want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
The way that, I've always been a proponent of manufacturing. I've always been a proponent of keeping these kind of jobs, keeping these kind of processes in the U.S. and they can be done well. And
yes,
I was really impressed that this company wanted to do these things and do them in a way that was I'm trying to pick my words here, but that was well done. I'll just say that. And that was really the final element that attracted me to the job and the role. And I've had nothing but great days since I've taken the job.
And busy days.
Many busy days. And
yeah,
there's nothing like science to get me up in the morning. If I know that I'm going to get up and solve hard problems, and especially hard problems with a scientific bent, it just gets me out of bed every morning.
And I love that. I mean, I think that's why you and I clicked, is, I am like just I'm just the rocks and dirt person. I'm not an engineer, but I mean, that would always get me up in the morning as well, as, what kind of problems can we solve? And then the added benefit of what you're doing is to make this world a better place, provide good jobs, safe jobs, and keep our manufacturing local.
That's the goal. And I have a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old, and I want to leave the next generation they've got some hard problems to solve, but hopefully I can help enable some of the deliver some of the variables that can help them solve those hard problems as the next generation picks up the torch.
You were definitely writing the map for them to work their way through it. You absolutely are.
That's my goal.
Yeah, no, you're brilliant at what you do. Speaking of brilliance. But, this is not our first time talking, guys. I've been chasing Susan for almost a year to do this show, but she's been so busy. This was her first moment of freedom. But that being said, people who want to find you, 555E, work with you guys, how do they get in touch, or can they go to the site and check it out? I don't even know if that's allowed.
So we have a website, 5eadvancedmaterials.com. So I encourage everyone who is interested after this podcast to go there. You can find, about Boron, who we are. We have an investor deck, an investor presentation. All those things are there. And
cool
Yeah.
looking, actually.
So one of the things that the Nissan plant did that I do want to figure out how to replicate here is we did site visits when I was at Nissan. You could, if I think it was every 7th grade class had to come to the Smyrna plant. It was just so much fun, and I got to talk to all the 7th graders about science and math. Talk to them when they're still open-minded enough to think about it. So we're looking at how do we do something similar out here? Interestingly enough, Cal State in San Bernardino has both a geology program and a chemistry program. So, is there a way for us to work with them? I'm on the Dean of Engineering at Cal State Long Beach's advisory board, working with them. They have chemical engineering, they have electrical engineering, and then Cal Poly Pomona, so between, is there a way that we can engage with the community? But we've already started reaching out to the local technical colleges and some of the local universities that are nearby, because we're hiring and we need technical skills, and I believe that we can find those technical skills within the radius of where we are.
Oh, absolutely. No, there are a lot of really smart kids out there. I mean, what they're learning nowadays, man, if we only had Google growing up.
I know. Just think how smart we'd be.
I would have gotten my thesis done in a week.
Yeah.
Well, on that,
exciting.
Yeah, so Susan, thank you so much for your time. I know you're crazy busy, so I do appreciate the time you've given us today. Please come back anytime, because I know that you guys are growing in leaps and bounds. So any updates, just let me know. We want to keep hearing this.
That sounds great. No, we will definitely do that. I'll stay in touch, and as we continue to grow and progress, I'd love to come back and talk more about 5E advanced materials.
Fantastic. So guys, thank you so much, Susan. You are a delight as always, and a rock goddess as well. I thank you for your time. I am Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice. We'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
Thank you, Wendy.
Anytime.